Hey everyone, it's Lisa Moeller with MedMark Media, and welcome to another edition of DocTalk Dental. I'm super excited today because I have actually two friends that have stopped by our Scottsdale office to sit down and talk everything dental sleep with us today. And they actually need no introduction because they're pretty much celebrities within our dental sleep industry. So we have the lovely Erin Elliott and Tarun T-Bone.
Why don't I get a lovely with my name?
The lovely, we went through that before.
I mean, basically because I didn't shave my head completely bald today? Is that what
You're
it is?
T-Bone. I was going to say Erin Awesome Elliott.
There.
Both of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Lisa, for letting us come in and ruin your day.
This is the highlight of my week. What are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
I love when friends come by and visit MedMark. It's so much fun just to
You got a beautiful place here. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done. We're here enough, so we better make it homey, right?
Exactly.
So let's talk sleep, you guys. Let's talk sleep, our favorite topic. And you guys have both graced our covers, by the way.
Yeah,
Little
lucky
promotion.
Us. Do you need me to sign mine?
You already did at the last trade show. With a Sharpie, actually. Erin just used a regular pen. You used a Sharpie.
Sorry. I have to carry one around just to sign all the autographs.
So funny.
I'm totally kidding.
It's so fun. No, I love it.
If I could only be that lucky.
Well, so Tarun was on an issue of dental sleep practice in this year, actually the first issue of the year, and Erin was on one of the covers last year. So awesome. You guys are superstar rock stars within our industry.
Well, I'm new to the sleep world. I think sleep is not new to my practice, but certainly new from a perspective of education and understanding some of the drama and the politics that are involved in sleep and
The industry,
and then a lot of the challenges that dentists are facing with sleep. I think I don't ever meet a dentist that doesn't want to implement sleep into their practice, but I meet a lot of dentists that have struggled implementing sleep in their practice. And, as an educator for 15, 16 years, focused on technology and practical workflows, I think that struggle comes from several different places. One is there's a lot of confusion in the market. Truly, it is something that's, to a certain degree, outside of the dental realm, in that it's a medically based procedure for the most part.
Right.
That brings its own sets of challenges. And I think as a busy general practitioner, it's always hard to implement something that you're not doing on a daily basis. And it really, to me, the key has been leveraging team members to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So it's not like fillings and crowns, because that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Sleep, for most of us, isn't something that we're doing every day.
It's so important to have your team properly trained for this, correct? Yeah. To be able to implement sleep into your practice.
that's pretty much like the biggest focus that we have when we talk to dentists that are confused,
which is where 3D dentists come in.
That really haven't implemented it the way they wanted to. But then there's also a lot of dentists that are just afraid to, even though they want to, because of all the things they've heard.
Mm-hmm. What are the misconceptions? What have they heard that's going to scare them away?
Well, I think right now some of the misconceptions, probably a little closer to me than many states, is North Carolina's dental board recently released an opinion, not even a ruling, that dentists should not provide HSTs or be involved with HSTs at all directly through their practice. And I can understand the logic behind that, and over time I may be able to get on board with that after they create some clarification of what that really means. But really what I see in that is that it's creating barriers for patients to get help. And ultimately, as a dentist, we're not diagnosing. I mean, I don't even understand what those little waveforms and all that stuff come out of that thing, all those graphs and things. We need sleep techs, and we need certified professionals, and we need a physician to do the diagnosis. And I understand if we're trying to protect dentists from self-diagnosing these procedures that we shouldn't be doing. But when there's so many of us that are doing it right, to really put up a roadblock for patients, it doesn't sit well with me.
It all comes down to patient care, and all of these patients have been passed over for years and years and years. And who better than someone that's staring at their airway, sees the dental signs and symptoms, because whether the medical world likes it or not, the mouth is connected to the body.
Exactly.
And we've been separated for so long, and I feel like that separation and divide is going to continue rather than working alongside of us.
I think it's almost getting worse, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes, my perspective when it comes to the sleep world is that the industry, and this is before me, tried to work hand in hand, side by side, and now I almost see that we're splitting off away from each other. And the ultimate loser in all of this is the patient.
Is the patient, exactly.
You know.
And you guys both know that I started dental sleep practice because I myself have sleep apnea. And for years, I was going to all these doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me, when I was seeing my dentist every 3 months for cleaning, because I'm in the dental industry, I'm obsessive about my teeth. And there was nothing ever mentioned, never discussed, and he's in my airway, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So it was very frustrating to actually be diagnosed by my chiropractor of all things. So,
Well, I think, a lot of times what happens is, and I speak to this from experience, Lisa, is that we're from a family of physicians on my wife's side, my side, and very few of them, if they were trained in the 80s and 90s, unless they were sleep physicians, they didn't hear about sleep apnea. It wasn't anything that
But that's still today.
Listen, now today they're more and more learning about it. But 5 years ago today, they weren't. Okay, and then as the medical industry is changing, and I'll use my wife as an example. She's sleep educated. A lot of that because of me and because they had a sleep rotation in her medical residency, but they have to see 80 to 100 patients a day, and you tell me how you're going to have a conversation with someone that you can't have a conversation in 5 or 7 minutes about sleep. You have to first make them aware of how this even fits into their overall life and how it fits into some of the other conditions they're having. And the overall industry is making it that it's not really feasible. And then if you want to send your patient to a sleep physician, it might be a month or two before they can even get in, which is its own set of problems. And as dental professionals, we're spending 45 minutes an hour with each of our patients. We're having barbershop talk, what I call it in hygiene, maybe salon talk, I don't know.
As long as it's not locker room talk.
Well, probably not locker room talk. And we're able to have those conversations with patients and plant the seeds. And so many of us are really trying to do it nicely. I hate using the word the right way, because I've still yet to have anybody tell me what the quote unquote the right, because I hear it all the time. Well, you should be doing sleep medicine the right way. I'm like, so tell me what the right way is. And nobody can give me a clear answer of what the right way is. And to me, that's the first systemic problem we have within our industry.
And the more difficult they make it, the less dentists are going to help. And the point of, a talk that I had recently was, you need to start talking to your patients about it. And we as a dental profession should be leading other dentists to start talking to our patients, but screening and leading them down that pathway. But instead, it's like, I'm not even going to bring it up because I don't know enough. And again, the patient suffers.
Exactly.
With all this noise.
Yeah, even just an Epworth, just in the paperwork. Or, just the questions.
Or just 3 or 4 simple questions on your health history. Like, do you snore? Have you ever had a sleep study? Have you ever been told to wear a CPAP and choose not to wear it?
Right.
Just some simple questions. It's amazing how many of those patients are out there.
I think in Epworth, honestly, people downplay how tired they really are because it's such a slow progression. It's such a part of their life that so many times after treatment, patients will come back. They're like, that's what a good night's sleep is? And so they underestimate how tired they really are because they don't know what they should feel like.
Right. Yeah, it's gotten to be the norm, just feeling like that.
So, because an Epworth will give us a number of how tired someone is. And I'll see people falling asleep while I'm doing dentistry and they have an Epworth of like 4. I'm like, that, which is low.
I want you to think about that for a second, is how hard is it to fall asleep in the dental practice, okay? You have a dentist with a drill running 200,000 RPMs in your
It's
mouth.
kind of difficult.
With both his or her hands in your mouth.
Yep.
And then you have an assistant,
another set of hands.
assistant putting a suction tube halfway down your throat. And we have patients falling asleep regularly in our chairs. And then, for those of us that do sedation, then we're monitoring their pulse ox the entire time, and we're literally seeing the oxygen go up and down as they're under medications to put them consciously sedated. So it's very frustrating for me.
Yeah.
To me, the absolute minimum is every dentist and every team member should understand how to have a basic conversation with the patient about, hey, this is what's going on. We're seeing more and more about this. If you want help, we chose not to do it in our practice. That's not my practice, but dentists can say that. Let's send you to a sleep physician. Let's send you to your primary care, or even just say, next time you talk to your primary care, insist.
You have to train them to insist, because, only if you were to close your eyes and imagine a sleep apneic, everyone thinks old fat man. But there's so many people that don't fit the bill.
They think 300-pound linebacker from an ex-NFL player, and it's frustrating.
I just had a really young mom, 34 years old, and totally sleep apneic, and she was told she was crazy. And these are
She might have been.
No, I really don't think she was.
I was told that a couple times, I think.
It's just so frustrating to me that because I used to tell them, go talk to your primary care, and they literally said I was crazy. There's no way you have sleep apnea. So,
can't you tell when you really can you guys tell a sleep apneic person? Just by looking at
walking
them,
down the road,
for the most
yes.
part.
I can now.
I can, and I'm not a doctor.
I think, Lisa, you touch on a point. Listen, at the end of the day, we can sit here and talk about how our industry is jacked up and all these things, and at the end of the day, that's not going to really help us a lot, right? So what I look at is I could probably argue that I could spot 50% of the apneics in my practice without even seeing the patient by just looking at the medical history. So one of the things that we teach in our programs is the physical signs of sleep apnea and the non-physical signs of sleep apnea. And the non-physical signs don't require us to see our patient. We just need them to fill out some basic paperwork that every patient in your practice is filling out. Things like your medical history form. So I can look at a medical history form and almost tell you with pretty good accuracy which of our patients are likely candidates or likely have sleep apnea. Things like blood pressure, and if they're on multiple medications of blood pressure, diabetics, gastric reflux, whether they're on over-the-counter or prescription medications,
and heart
strokes,
baby aspirin. Well, and even the people that take natural sleep aids that they might not report, we really focus with my team on asking, do they take melatonin as needed, or some of those things that would help prompt the fact that they have trouble sleeping. And they're finding more and more that insomnia, especially in perimenopausal women, is sleep apnea.
Yes.
But instead they get given sleep aids.
Exactly.
Or patients on SSRIs, anti-anxiety medications, depression medications. To me, and that's what, as an outsider, really irritates me about what I've seen going on in the sleep world in our industry is that we're making something that isn't that complicated from a screening and talking perspective, unbelievably complicated and almost fearful at a certain level. Once I understood this, and once I got that through my front office team members, not even my clinical team members, I have front office team members saying, "Oh, this patient's definitely got it," and so that's all I'm asking my team members to do is just have a conversation, bring it up, pick and choose, people that are more likely to have it, not by the way they physically look, because a lot of this stuff we're getting the forms filled out online, we're seeing the forms before we see the patient,
right? And
we almost already know kind of the things that we're going to talk to our patients about.
Right.
And many people are making sleep apnea so complicated. And I think as dentists who are taking this education and learning about it in the beginning stages, we're asking the wrong questions. And too often we're focused on how to make the appliance, what appliance to make, all of those things.
I'm just going to make that point.
And we're not focused on the first step. The first step is to figure out which patients even need this and help your patients.
So when
Right.
we teach a 4-step process. That's something I learned from him, is like start at the basics, right? In people jump to, what appliance do you use? It really doesn't matter what appliance you use if you don't have a patient to put it in.
Exactly.
So starting with awareness and creating that into urgency so that the patients own it and see that it's a problem and not you pushing it on them.
Exactly.
And then getting the proper diagnosis, because we don't make snort
Through medical
guards.
professionals.
Through, we work with medical professionals, but we also try to eliminate essentially an uphill climb for patients to get the help they need. How many patients actually follow through all the, traditional pathway without giving up?
Right.
And then the third is the financials, which often scares dentists away too, the medical insurance. But I wouldn't do this if medical insurance didn't pay. So
Right.
there's a way to get paid.
There's just a process
and then
that takes
finally
to get
the
there.
clinical part. That's the dentistry. That's the part the dentist can catch on to pretty easily.
Right.
But it's properly taking the patients through those steps that is where I think that I enjoy working with T-Bone.
I think that's where we succeed.
Yeah.
The truth is there's 4 steps, as Erin mentioned, and most training programs or most dentists, their mindset is to focus on how I do something and not when, why, and how do I even get to the point of doing it. I've talked to so many dentists like, man, I made appliances and I never got paid. I'm like, well, that's your dumbness, is how I look at it, If you want to do pro bono work, that's great. And I love doing pro bono work, but let's understand the process before we worry about the outcome.
Right. Well, isn't that with any business? I mean, as long as we're helping people and have a mission to help people first, the money typically follows.
You do the
And
right
if you do
thing
it
for
the
the right
way,
reasons.
yeah.
But there's that right way. What is
Yeah.
the right way again?
Well,
That's just a saying my dad used to say.
Yeah, right. But
monetizing though right
Yeah.
now in dental sleep is
But-
like a lot of people are very,
But
honed in on that.
let's talk about that for a second, if you don't mind, Lisa.
Sure.
I think this is an area, and I got to admit, I'm a little bit guilty of this too, where we talk about, because I talk a lot about technology. And the truth is sleep apnea is that one thing in dentistry where you don't need any technology, you don't need any fancy equipment, you don't need any of those things. It helps a lot, okay? It really helps a lot, but you don't need any. We were doing sleep before any of that stuff existed.
Which is the point of my article that I wrote. Essentially, the first paragraph says how I ran my rep out of the office because he tried to sell me on cone beam for sleep apnea, and I was like, you don't need it. But now that I have it,
There's some amazing technology
Yes.
out there that
Yes.
helps you tremendously, I'm sure.
yeah, not just sleep, but general dentistry
Yes,
too.
yes.
But yes.
Sorry, Tarun.
No, it's okay.
And the technology in the air, I mean, talk to how that's opened up for you with your patients and the airway topic and
For me, everything's a prop. Okay, so to me, the hardest thing to do, or for me, for my team members, for everyone that's listening, for their team members, is bringing up the conversation. Conversations are so much easier when you have a visual representation that makes the conversation just start. Okay, and to me, that's what all technology is. Whether it's a camera with a photograph of the airway, whether it's a cone beam with a 3-dimensional representation of the airway. No matter what it is, all those things are, to me, are props to help have the conversation, to create that level of trust so that we can move forward.
Well, and also I think bridges that gap. Before, when I would bring up sleep to a patient, they'd be like, why are you talking? You're my dentist. Why are you talking to me about this? And that helps transition that, like, it's because we see a lot of the dental signs and symptoms that can contribute to that, and that helps them kind of understand why we care.
Yeah. And a lot of people are very visual. So, with the technology like Dentsply Sirona has out, with the digital images and everything you guys can do now with the airway and show them and, actually point it out, right, to what you're going to fix.
I'd like to give an analogy since I have 2 females with me. When's the last time that you tried on makeup or lipstick for the first time and didn't try it on and look at yourself in the mirror before you bought it?
I shop online a lot, so.
But you bought it before, correct?
Typically, yes.
Yes,
Typically,
okay.
yeah.
So ultimately, to your point, we're all very visual people, okay? We don't buy anything, well, like clothes. We don't buy clothes until we go and look in the mirror, see what it looks like on us, see how it makes us feel, and then we make that emotional decision that we want to go down that path. And that's what technology is for me. It's a way to give that visual representation, to enlist an emotional response from our patients, to get the patient to buy and own their condition, not to buy our product, because I don't even know if what we have for them is right for them yet. I don't even know these things at this point. I don't even know if my patient has sleep apnea at this point. Before I forget, my ADD mind, another thing that's very concerning for me is sleep is such a financial reward for practices that I think we're starting to see some potentially unscrupulous things going on. And I've always been the opinion that before you ask for a referral from physicians, before you sign up for a fancy marketing program, and I'm not saying that those things don't work, learn how to do it in your office. Get to the point where you're doing 3, 4, 5 appliances consistently per month. Make sure
have a foundation.
Have a good, strong foundation before you spend money on marketing. And before you go and ask for referrals and maybe kind of drop the ball a few times and then lose that trust that affects our overall profession.
Right.
Because you talk to your patient, you get them interested, you help them own the problem, and then if you don't know what to do with them after that, you're going to lose them. And will they get help again? Will they pursue it again if you drop the ball?
Probably not.
So you need to have systems in place that the whole team knows from front to back. Okay, this person's interested, now what?
Yeah. And again, that's doing a patient the disservice because if they're trying it and it's all, it's all muddled and not done properly, and they're not gonna. They're probably like, oh, sleep apnea, whatever. I'll just snore.
If it's not convenient for them,
right?
And to me, that's where a lot of the frustration comes in, is not having a good firm foundation within your practice before you go outside of your practice. And I think the tendency sometimes, and I got to admit, I'm very guilty of this personally, is I forget what it was like when I started. Yes, today we're doing hundreds of appliances, okay? But when I started, we were doing dozens of appliances per year, and maybe not even dozens per year. And it's so easy for us as educators sometimes to mislead people that this can be your practice. And the truth is it can be, but you got to start with what you got. You got to get yourself foundationally set, get your team on board, find out if you even like this type of treatment.
Right.
For some people, they don't like this. It's not exhilarating enough. So to me, one of my missions is to get people to understand, start within your patient base. They love you and they trust you, and there's more than enough inside your practice that you don't need to spend 1 ounce of energy. Notice I didn't say money. 1 ounce of energy focusing on going outside your practice until you really cultivate what's inside your practice. And that goes to implants, that goes to ortho, that goes to anything you want to add to your practice.
Well, sleep should be exhilarating, because I like to say sleep is everything. Because if we're not sleeping, that is a problem.
And the oxygen that we get when we're sleeping.
Many problems.
For some of us that are surgically oriented, we want to be shucking teeth and placing implants.
It's not a syringe or a hand
sexy,
so it's not. It's not that stuff, right?
I think so. I think so.
Which is fine, but we should still be talking to our patients about it. But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So both of you are big Dentsply Sirona doctors. We've been on our covers talking about them. Yeah. So tell us what is so great about their imaging equipment and everything that you use in your practice. Tell your colleagues, why you use them, why you think they're the best.
Well, just like T-Bone was saying, it's one thing to have the technology, but to actually use it in our workflow has been amazing. So I have a partner who all of a sudden is excited about dentistry again. And I'm still a practicing general dentist, and I'm on my implant pathway as well. I'm placing implants. And I couldn't imagine doing any of that without my cone beam.
Right.
And all of the things we find that patients weren't aware of, abscesses and infection, things like that. But the workflow, I think, where everything works together and integrates, from having the airway volumized, but then next scanning the arches without impression material, to digitally upload it to the cone beam, to get an appliance ordered, all simplified.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. The workflow.
And now the addition of Matrix Plus.
Yeah.
So, I would remind our watchers and viewers that Erin was a skeptic. I think she forgets that when we first met, I planted that seed. Hey, where are you at with technology? Because we're 3D dentists, right? And
You
you're
better be up on
and
technology.
you're like non-3D altogether, right? I'm surprised she even had a smartphone. But people come around. So let me say this about technology in general. And yes, I'm an unbelievable advocate for Dentsply Sirona, a wonderful company, wonderful people. What really separates where technology is great for your practice, to me, it's about, one, does it actually produce an outcome? Does it work in tandem with different things that you have in your practice? Does it help your patient? How does it help your team? And how does it help the doctor by allowing the team to do so much? And I think some of the things that Erin didn't point out is our team members are doing 90% of the work for us. Yes, it may not be the fanciest software out there compared to some of these crazy, unbelievably fancy softwares, but there's a negative to being super fancy because it's not friendly to the average person or the average team member to be able to do that stuff.
My team is excited. They love it.
So it's obviously very user friendly. So right,
absolutely.
you can teach your team to.
And we've gotten the training, and
They've gone through 3D dentists.
We've implemented.
And others. Listen, there's Sarek Doctors, there's Todd Ehrlich with Digital Enamel, there's James Klein with Klein Institute. There's so many choices out there. But that to me is the other part of it, is the community.
Just go to Dentsply Sirona World and you'll see what we're talking about.
I know.
Listen, this is a really sticky subject for me, so I apologize if I get passionate about it, okay?
It's okay.
It's when someone says to me, when somebody says the only thing they can say negative about a product is that it costs more, I'm like, so what? It means it's probably damn good. Right? And when that cost more comes with benefits, and that benefit is literally you can pick up the phone in almost any city in this country and there'll be a colleague who's ready and willing to help you because we have 20 to 30 years of a community that we've cultivated.
It's incredible.
And you're not on an island.
I've made.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's and to me I can't tell you how many things I bought, like Google Glasses, 360 cameras, 3D cameras, all kinds of stuff in my personal life that were all so cool and so fancy. And yes, they were less expensive, some other things, but I never used any of them. And what's the point of any of this technology, any of it, if we don't actually use it and make some good out of it?
Right, exactly.
And to me, that's where they've shined.
I'm doing some really amazing, I can't contain it, but amazing implant cases, and I'm able to, mill the guide in my office, and for patients that would have had an additional 6 months without a tooth or improper replacement, so I can't restore it properly. Just the confidence I get from starting to place my implants.
That's Sarek is amazing.
Yeah.
And I've watched it in the dental office live as well. It's amazing. And what it does for patients is incredible.
Yeah. And I do get teased for being the 70-year-old lady of the group as far as technology goes, but saying that we have implemented it and it's been good for our practice.